All right, so what if I told you you could buy a real estate portfolio using the same pile of money over and over again? No, this isn't a gimmick. It's a real strategy used by thousands of investors to grow massive wealth. And most people have no idea that it even exists. Today, I'm going to break down the BRRRR method, how it works, why it works, and how to use it to get rich with rental properties starting from scratch. By the end of this video, you'll understand exactly what the BRRRR method is, why it's one of the most powerful wealth building tools in real estate, and how you can get started even if you're brand new. This is part one of our BRRRR Method Mastery Series, and it sets the foundation for the entire system. So let's dive in. So what is the BRRRR method? BRRRR is an acronym, and it stands for buy, rehab, rent, refinance, repeat. Here is how it works basically in a nutshell. You buy a distressed property below market value. You rehab the property, which is going to increase its value. You rent it out to a qualified tenant. You refinance the property, pulling out your equity that you've created, and then you repeat that process using the same capital. Let's say you start with $50,000. You buy a fixer-upper, you put $20,000 into renovations, you get it rented, you refinance it, you pull out your original $50,000 or more tax-free. Now you use that same money on the next deal and the next one and the next one. It's like recycling your dollars, but each time you recycle them, you leave behind a cash flowing rate. Now you might be thinking, sounds great, but how realistic is this? And in just a second, I'm going to walk you through the real world numbers and show you how the strategy works in practice, including how investors scale from one deal to financial freedom. So there are really four major reasons why the BRRRR method works so well. Number one is forced appreciation. You're buying a property that's typically in rough shape, and you're the one forcing the increase in value through renovations. This means that you're not just waiting for the market to go up, you're actually creating equity on your terms. Two is the tax-free cash out. You refinance, you're not selling the property, you're taking out a loan based on that new value. And because of that, the money that you pull out is not taxed like income. So you literally are pulling out tens of thousands of dollars, in some cases even hundreds, without paying capital gains tax. Third is cash flow plus equity growth. So each time you do a BRRRR deal, you're adding a rental property to your portfolio. That means more monthly passive income, long-term appreciation, and your tenants are paying down your mortgage. And four, you're recycling capital. So instead of saving up $50,000 for every single property, you're simply reusing that same $50,000 over and over again. It's the fastest way to scale without consistently needing more capital. Now let's compare the BRRRR to a typical buy and hold strategy. A traditional rental strategy would be you'd save up, let's say $30,000 to $50,000. You'd buy one house, you'd rent it out, you'd wait years to save up potentially for the next one, and then buy the next property at that point. With the BRRRR strategy, you buy a distressed property, you renovate it, you pull your cash out, typically in about 6 to 12 months, it just kind of depends, and you use that same money to then buy your next deal. And here's what that looks like over, let's say, for example, 3 years. With the traditional buy and hold method, you might own 2 to 3 properties if you continue on that trajectory over the course of 3 years. But with the BRRRR method, you could own anywhere from 6 to 10 properties using that same initial capital. And that's really the power of the velocity of the money being used, not just owning more, but doing it in a faster way without burning through your savings. All right, you still with me? Good, good, because the next few minutes, I'm going to share with you the 3 biggest mistakes beginners make whenever they're trying to do their first BRRRR deal and how to avoid them so you don't get stuck. Probably the single biggest mistake new investors make when they're trying to do the BRRRR strategy is they overpay on the buy. If you don't buy at the right price, the whole deal falls apart. You need to be able to know your ARV, which stands for after repair value, and back into your purchase price using something like the 70% rule. More on that in part 2 of the series. One of the second biggest mistakes is underestimating rehab costs. This gets flippers as well. Many new investors lowball the rehab budget and they get surprised mid-project. Always get quotes up front and make sure you pad your budget typically by at least 10 to 15%. The third biggest mistake is new investors will get the wrong type of loan, okay? Not all lenders are BRRRR friendly. Matter of fact, many of them are not. You'll need a short-term loan for the purchase and then rehab, and then a refi friendly lender to transition into a long-term, typically a 30-year mortgage. This is where many beginners actually fumble, and it ends up killing their momentum. There's a lot of mortgage companies out there that they require a seasoning period, or whenever you try to refinance, they'll only give you what you paid, and so you've got to make sure that you're using a BRRRR friendly lender. All right, so I know what you're thinking. That all sounds good, but now let's dive in and break down a real BRRRR strategy in actual real life numbers, let's say, okay? So let's say you purchased the property at $100,000 and your rehab is $30,000. So all in with your purchase and rehab, now again, we're not gonna talk about closing costs and all the other costs, but you're all in at $130,000, okay? After you repair the property, you do your rehab, everything's repaired, it's good to go. The ARV is now at $185,000. So if you were to go and you refinance at 75% of ARV, again, $185,000 times 0.75, that would come out to be $138,750. You get all of your $130,000 back plus some extra. You now own a cash flowing rental with long-term equity and all of your cash back in hand, ready to go for your next deal. Now imagine doing this 5 times in a row. 5 houses, 5 streams of income, 5 chunks of tax-free equity using the same original money. That's how wealth is built, and most people have never heard about it. Now, in the next video of the series, we're going to dive into how to find the right BRRRR property, and I'll give you the exact checklist I use to evaluate my deals. So if you haven't already, subscribe to the channel and turn on notifications so you don't miss the rest of the series. And if you want to speed this up and get personal help doing your first BRRRR deal, join my private community where I share behind the scenes numbers, funding sources, and live support. That link is in the description below that you can take a look at the community and potentially join to start building your portfolio the smart way. As always, I appreciate you watching this video. Let's go build wealth. I'll see you in the next video.